Hello once again. GoodMicWork commentaries back at you for your WWE Raw June 8th, 2020 review and results podcast. We're here to talk about a show that ended pretty well. I mean, at least with the match. I thought that was a really good, long main event given to the women with two of the female alphas. The match went about 25 minutes, couple different commercial breaks, kind of a screwy finish at the end, but you had to kind of expect that. I don't think, even with the fans' opinion that Charlotte always wins and shit, I just don't see them really beating one of those women clean right now. So having Nia come out, because she is the opponent for Asuka at Backlash, and I don't expect Asuka to drop the belt right now, having Nia come out, screw up the match, allowing Charlotte to win right off the heels of her loss last night, and putting Asuka in the position to choke that woman out on Sunday, I guess is all fine and doesn't ruin it too much, but it always does suck to kind of see a really, really good match kind of end in that way. And I think, who was it? Aaron just pointed out on Twitter, the stupid-ass babyface falls for the distraction again. I don't know when they're ever going to learn, but it kind of goes... just kind of goes with the territory in wrestling, just like the referees are always so easily distracted, and when they take a bump, they're down for 2.5 hours nursing their injury. So it's the way wrestling is, but I was happy that they gave the women, for the second night in a row, a main event spot on a show, and the match delivered. I mean, Asuka and Charlotte, that was good stuff. And I know it's kind of against, I forget which page it's on. I know it's like chapter 4, maybe page 17, article 2-A, thou shalt not say anything positive about Charlotte, but gonna have to break that commandment because she wrestled 3 times in the last 24 hours. I mean, she had the grueling triple threat match last night, which was no joke, with Io Shirai picking up the belt. And then, we saw the match that was scheduled to be with Asuka got kind of goofed up in the beginning of the show, and they worked a triple threat tag match and then worked the main event later on. So say what you want about Charlotte, but she's an athlete. She's a hell of a lot more athletic than anybody that's shitting on her. That's for sure. So we'll get into the whole show, though. Bit by bit, piece by piece. I'll go into the chat and say hello right now, see what you guys are up to in here. Good to see you guys. Vontae, you are banned, Vontae. I'm kidding. No, you're not. Ryan, Sam, Sports Fanatic, and Barry, The Machine, E-Money, Ian, Trey, Nick Musser, good to see you. Daniel, Tim, Ungovernable, Big J, K-Dogs, The Machine, Corey. All right, so we'll see what kind of the audience we have in here. The Raw streams have been great every week. My last 3 streams have been shit, though, so it always cracks me up the way YouTube goes. I have these, little peaks and valleys. We'll go crazy numbers for a little while, then it'll a little bit die off for a few weeks, and then we'll get back to really good again. I feel like we might be into a lull here. We'll see, but we'll see how tonight goes, and we'll hang out and talk about all sorts of random things and get into some wrestling news later on as well after we're done talking about Monday Night Raw. What would you guys grade the show? I didn't ask you guys. I didn't put up a Twitter poll or anything like that. Based on the feedback I was getting and reading, I would say that most people thought it was an okay show. A lot of good comments on the Peep Show segment with Edge and Christian, although you can really tell WWE is hurting for time sometimes because, like we said, we had Charlotte and Asuka both wrestling twice tonight. We had 2 different talk shows, lots of different recaps and video packages and backlash setup and all that kind of stuff. So they're really trying to fill these 3 hours. The Viking, Raiders, and Street Profits crap continued into this week, which is one part of the show tonight that I actually didn't pay too much attention to. But, there was a fair amount, I guess, of filler on this, and we saw a lot of talent multiple times. Anyway, but we will talk about it. I know I put on Twitter, I'm like, all right, I'm cool with that, finish. They're not gonna, Charlotte's probably gonna win after losing something like that. They're not gonna have Asuka just go out there and beat her clean. It's not what's gonna happen. But at the same time, WWE's not gonna, pin Asuka clean either, no matter what the fans think. And of course, that very mere suggestion on Twitter gets all capital responses. She doesn't need to win. She's a 12-time champion. God. Let me tell you this, I'll tell you one thing, one stat about Charlotte that's 1,000,000% true. The fans' obsession with hating her is far greater than WWE's obsession with loving her. That is for sure, because she really hasn't been booked like the John Cena at all. So it's not like she's been dominant, beating the shit out of everybody. If that was the case, she would have beat Asuka tonight, fair and square, without the Nia Jax bullshit. So it was a way to kind of get Charlotte back on the winning track after dropping a belt last night. Doesn't even look like she's going to be heading back there to challenge for that NXT title. Plus, it allows Asuka to be even more pissed off at Nia Jax now going into Backlash, and she'll choke her out. And that's fine with me. I don't think it's a big deal. But it's the way WWE does things. But in this case, I feel like it was, more or less harmless because it was just random Raw matches. Like, who fucking cares? And it was a go-home show setting up a pay-per-view. Wins like that don't mean anything. If she would have win in that ring, had a 20-minute match with Asuka, slapped the figure 8 on her and tapped her out, I'd be right there tweeting in all caps with you guys. But, I think we should not be so quick to jump up the ass of Charlotte when it's kind of pointless. But anyway, let's start getting into the results. We'll talk about it. That was the big opening segment. They had advertised immediately after In Your House that it was going to be Asuka and Charlotte on Raw tonight. And at first, I kind of thought it was a title match, but then it wasn't. But I'm like, Jesus, for fuck's sake, WWE, it would have been funny if it was a title match and she came over to Raw and won the belt right after she dropped the NXT title last night. But that was not the case. This match appeared to be opening the show. Asuka came out to the ring first. But before Charlotte can make her entrance, out come Sasha and Bayley, because they have just recently won the women's tag team titles, which means they can hop from whichever brand they want. So they come out there and interrupt, and you could kind of see this as soon as they came out there. I'm like, oh, they're going to team up Charlotte and Asuka. It's going to be Charlotte and Asuka versus Bayley and Sasha. That's what I thought it was going to be. But after Sasha and Bayley come out there bragging about their titles and how they can do whatever they want now, they're followed by the Iconics, who also come out there, who are as annoying as always. The 6 women, Charlotte then follows. The 6 women all start jibber-jabber, and next thing you know, you go to commercial, you come back, and we got a triple threat tag team match. Who saw that coming, right? And I put on Twitter, as soon as the match started, I said, Asuka and Charlotte will win this, and Bayley and Sasha will retain at the pay-per-view. That's what I believe, because at Backlash, Bayley and Sasha are facing Nikki and Alexa and the Iconics in a triple threat, and given that the fact that they've just won the belts, I don't see them dropping them again, and I certainly don't see them passing the titles back to the Iconics again after last year. So I kind of saw them losing here and then getting their win on Sunday. And that's what happened. We had Asuka choking out Billie Kay for the win there, and there's a lot of dissension between Asuka and Charlotte. They were pushing and shoving a bit, and they would meet later on in the main event. We had a follow-up on the Rey Mysterio stuff from last week. He had a via satellite interview, and Seth Rollins sit in with the commentary team with Phillips and Samoa Joe, or whoever the hell it is. And he kind of sat there. He's got the suit on and the black glove and everything. And Rey is talking about his prognosis, his eye prognosis, and says that it's promising, but still, warns of the infection and things like that. But says that he still doesn't really know when he's going to be medically cleared to get in the ring. And then he goes on to warn Seth Rollins, saying, you better watch out for me, because the minute I'm able to get in the ring, I'm going to have a 619 waiting for you, and I'm not going to wait till the end of the match to hit the 619. I'm going to hit it right away. I've got one with your name on it. That's all fine and good, Ray, but Seth Rollins stabbed your eye out on the corner of a steel steps, a vicious, brutal attack. If someone did that to me and kicked my eye out, I would be threatening them with a lot more than a 619 with a fancy little flashy wrestling move. I'd be threatening them with that lead pipe that you used to carry around. Where the hell was that? If I was Rey Mysterio, during that promo, I would have been holding that thing in my hands, and smacking my hand with it like Big Boss Man used to with the nightstick. Like, that's what I would be doing. But instead, Rey's like, oh, I'm going to get my revenge on you, Seth, for nearly ending my eyesight by giving you a 619. Come on, Rey. You need to be bringing a baseball bat covered in nails, to this fight, not a 619. I found that to be a little bit silly. Seth doesn't really give a shit about the warning. He goes on to then invite Rey Mysterio to Raw next week and told him to bring Dominic. So it was pretty obvious last week when Dominic kind of interrupted the whole deal that he was going to be involved in this somehow. We've seen him a couple of times now, dating all the way back to 2005, but most recently with the Brock Lesnar stuff. So again, I have pitched the idea of a Dominic heel turn literally since the minute we saw him. And I remember that all the way back from the Samoa Joe feud. So here we go again. We've got Dominic in a position here where is he going to turn on his dad? Seth Rollins is kind of this cult leader gimmick right now. He could maybe get to Dominic, get him brainwashed or whatever. Don't know if WWE will go that direction or if this is really just kind of a bucket list thing for Rey Mysterio to do, and WWE's allowing him and granting him the opportunity to do that, to get Dominic in the ring and maybe have a tag team match with him so he can kind of check it off his list before he retires to actually have a match with his son. So they could just be doing it for that reason and that reason alone, or they could take it in another direction and then maybe carry this thing on for a few months and make a big program out of it with Dominic, maybe being brainwashed by Seth, but then in the end, seeing the light, reuniting with his dad, something like that. I don't know. Could go either way, but looks like they're going to stretch this thing out beyond Backlash, obviously, and we're talking now maybe SummerSlam or maybe the July pay-per-view, whatever it is, for Seth and Rey Mysterio. And the best part about this whole segment was after Rey was done talking, Seth is now saying his piece into the camera, and out of nowhere, literally flying into frame, comes Aleister Black, who dives over the announce table and just nails Seth, spears him and tackles him perfectly right into the barricade. And literally about 2 seconds later, bam, they cut to commercial. That was the funniest part to me of the whole show, because it was almost like, it's not like Seth saw him coming. He's just sitting there and then bam, Aleister's right in his face. So I didn't know when you're in the WWE, you got to be walking around worrying about ducking flying Aleisters. That sounds really scary, but I thought that was perfectly shot and perfectly edited the way they went right to commercial, and you had no idea what was going to happen when they came back. That was a funny part of the show. So when they came back from commercial, we've got a tag match. I kind of thought it was going to be Seth and Aleister involved in that, but it was Humberto Carrillo and Aleister Black taking on Austin Theory and Syrupy Murphy. Black would pin Murphy very emphatically. I think he hit him with a really hard knee strike as Murph is up on the top rope. That looked great. Rollins comes out. Rey Mysterio's music hits after Black and Carrillo get the win. Out walks Rollins wearing Rey Mysterio's mask. Buddy and Austin Theory jump Black and Murphy, and the three of them proceed to beat down the baby faces. And the Monday Night Messiah, even in the loss, they still stand tall in the end of that segment. But that Aleister Black shit was a trip. Thank you, Ian, and thank you, Sports. It is Extreme Rules. Okay. That's the pay-per-view. Let me go back up here. Did I miss any super chats? I think there might be one coming in. Thank you, Daniel, for that. I appreciate the $2. Do you think WrestleMania 37 will be in LA? I hope so. It's kind of up in the air. Really sad. Some construction worker died during construction just a few days ago, which kind of sucked. I think that shut down production for that day. Don't know how much the COVID, set them back. I mean, we're still months and months away, nearly a year from WrestleMania, about 10 months now. So I think they're probably going to get it done, but you never know. It depends on the second wave of coronavirus. If we get that, if any other restrictions are reintroduced maybe this fall or maybe after the summer, and any other thing that might slow them down, I guess it just depends on that. But I think it should be good to go. We'll see. I got to keep my eye on it because my plan is to go, and it sure does suck not knowing. It sure does suck not quite unknowing where a show is going to be in the future. It's going to be really nice when we get on the other side of this crap. We had, I think the Peep Show was up next. This was pretty good. This might have been one of the best Peep shows we've ever seen. I thought it was going to be an interesting attraction to have Edge and Christian back in the ring on Raw randomly. Christian resurrecting the old Peep Show to have his buddy Edge on and talk about the greatest wrestling match ever that's coming up this Sunday at Backlash. And I kind of thought, it would be a more friendly segment, but they kind of went in the direction where Christian was showing Edge a little bit of tough love, showing concern for Edge, basically saying, I think you're running on fumes. I'm only saying this because I'm your friend, but I don't think that you can win this match. And the fact that it's being billed as the greatest wrestling match ever, I don't think you could do that in your prime, much less now. So that was kind of funny. Edge even told him, yo, bro, you need to back off, dude. Who was the one that was pissing his pants and throwing up before each and every one of our tag team matches that I had to give a pep talk to? You've had your share of confidence issues as well. Shut the fuck up. So that was kind of cool that there was a little almost conflict there. And it makes you wonder, I don't know what Christian's deal. He looked great in this. I don't know if there's a chance that, he could get cleared and work another match and maybe come back and have a throwback with Edge one day, and maybe he gets involved in this Randy Orton stuff. Because part of me wonders if Randy Orton's going to get his victory back in this greatest wrestling match ever. Because if he goes down to Edge twice, what does Orton do now, kind of thing. But if he pulls some shady shit to get a victory, maybe like Christian turning on Edge or something like that. Maybe Edge and Christian were like, hey, I want to have a match with you before we both officially hang it up, kind of thing. Maybe Christian turns and helps out Randy Orton, turns on Edge, and then we get an Edge and Christian match. Just a one-off, just one match, that's it. Maybe at Extreme Rules, and then Edge can go into maybe SummerSlam to work with Seth Rollins or whoever the plan might be for them. That's just a thought, since Christian was kind of giving Edge a little bit of shit here. But if not, if it's a straight-up match and we actually do get a winner, they better not bill this as the greatest wrestling match ever and do a DQ or do a count-out or something like that. So we're going to have a finish here. And I don't know what kind of finish you do. Does Orton put down Edge clean and they just get Edge's loss out of the way? That way it's a non-issue now going forward. Or does Randy Orton lose again? You know, setting up Edge and maybe putting him a little closer to maybe even title contention. I don't know. And you got to wonder the future of SummerSlam, the future of Drew McIntyre. I don't think he's going to be dropping the belt to Lashley. And I would assume they probably will have maybe a blow-off at Extreme Rules, maybe. And then Drew will have a whole new SummerSlam opponent. That opponent might be Brock Lesnar again, which WWE has a tendency to do. Or if Randy Orton's able to beat Edge in the greatest wrestling match ever, maybe that gives Randy Orton the title shot against McIntyre at SummerSlam. Seth, I think, is going to be with Ray, so it might have to be one of them. I don't know. You guys can help out. Book this shit for us, will you? Hey, you guys help me out and hook me up with the likes, because some spammer came in and hit 20 dislikes on this video. Hook us up. We never get likes that much, so that tells me it's just one person. So help us out here. I'd appreciate it. Hey, Dan, what's going on? Might be talking to you later on if you're still awake. Oh, you were hoping Edge would turn heel on Christian tonight. Yeah, I kind of thought that maybe Edge was kind of getting a little bit like fed up and like, hey, don't make me whoop your ass now. I kind of thought maybe that would happen. Hey, I like that, Nick. I actually do like that. If Orton loses twice, send him to NXT, because did you see Randy Orton's tweet about In Your House last night? He's ribbing the guys. He's kind of poking fun at them a little bit, but I didn't really think it was that disrespectful. Randy Orton commended the men and women for their job at the In Your House pay-per-view last night and said, giving you guys, knee slaps in tribute or something like that. Hashtag knee slaps or leg slaps, because we see a lot of leg slaps in NXT. And Tommaso Ciampa kind of took offense to it. And he said, my kid had trouble sleeping, so instead of giving her NyQuil, I just had her watch Randy Orton matches. Sincerely, a whole locker room full of people that busted their ass last night. So it almost seemed like Ciampa took exception to that little tongue-in-cheek comment by Randy Orton. As a big fan of NXT and the wrestling that goes on there, I was not offended at all by what Randy Orton tweeted. I thought he was kind of showing him props, like, hey, great job. I thought it was really good. And maybe acknowledging the excessive knee slaps and shit like that. But I didn't really think it would be any reason to piss anybody off, unless, maybe they're going to move Ciampa up to the main roster now that he doesn't really have that much of a direction in NXT, I wouldn't imagine. And having him come in and work with Orton, maybe that could be fun after this match with Edge. We'll see. But that was kind of a funny exchange between the two. Lacey Evans and Brian Cage got into it as well. I think if Lacey might have started it. There was a video on Twitter of Brian Cage doing the springboard moonsault thing, which is a move that a lot of guys have done. I know Mark Mero did a version of that back in the day. And I think Lacey pointed it out, or somebody pointed out that Lacey does it and he's trying to copy her or some shit like that. And some sort of beef started between the two when a beef really didn't need to be there at all. So that was kind of funny. And then between that and Edge and Orton and Ciampa, all sorts of Twitter beefing going on today. But whatevs. What did we have next on Raw? Where are we at? I guess we had the triple threat. It was Andrade taking on Kevin Owens and Angel Garza. This was an opportunity to face Apollo for the U.S. title at Backlash. So going into this, I was almost like kind of ruling out Owens. I'm like, I don't know if they're going to do the babyface match. They might. I think Apollo just got the title, so he should roll for a little while longer. So in a way, I didn't even want to see Owens win, because I don't want to see really Owens lose right now either, and I don't see him taking the title off of Apollo right after they put it on him. So they had Andrade win here, and he pinned his partner, pinned Garza, just adding to the dissension between that whole little deal with Zelina there. They had all sorts of problems after the match, but Andrade now is going to Backlash to face Apollo, and the only problem I have with that match is it's extremely predictable. Apollo's going to retain, right, and beat Andrade. Maybe The result of that, though, will lead to the final implosion with everybody, and, you know, he'll turn face and tell Zelina Vega to fuck off, and all that will happen. So that could be a thing. You know, if he loses and goes down to Apollo, they could do the WrestleMania 7 shit, you know, where Sherry attacks Savage. Maybe she just bitch slaps Andrade, and then Garza attacks him from behind, and they beat him down, and then Andrade's a babyface. So keep a lookout for that, I guess, at the Backlash. Paid very little attention to the decathlon. The Street Profits and Viking Raiders have done axe throwing. They've done bowling. They've done basketball. I think they did naked twister. They're running out of ideas. Now they did the decathlon. More of the same shit from these guys. It's like they're getting along, but they're competitive at the same time. And they would show up in the next segment back in the PC with the MVP Lounge. Second talk show of the night. Supposed to be Bobby Lashley, but McIntyre comes out first and says instead, and basically tells MVP he's going to kill him. He's like, look, you got two choices. I'm going to kick your head off right now with a Claymore, or you can scurry away like a little bitch. I'll get out of the ring, find you, bring you back here, and kick your head off anyway. You got to count of 3 to make your decision, kind of thing. That's when Lashley shows up. Now they've kind of got him cornered, and Drew is in between them, and that's when the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits come out. So this whole thing's turning into a huge party. And we get the advertised match right after commercial break that's supposed to be Viking Raiders taking on Lashley and MVP. But everybody stays at ringside. Street Profits stay out there. Drew stays out there, watches the match. Lashley and Drew, a lot of stare down, a lot of tension between those two. In the end, Bobby Lashley hooks the full Nelson on Eric, and he taps out. I like the full Nelson. The full Nelson's old school. The full Nelson reminds me of like Billy Jack Haynes and Hercules from like 86 and 87. They used to have the battle for the full Nelson. And, you know, for a kid my age back then, you know, that whole situation like felt real. And the full Nelson was a believable move back then, but it's not one that's used very often. Master Lock a few years ago with Chris Masters. Who else in like more modern times has used the Nelson as the finisher? So, you know, Lashley probably should have been doing this his whole career instead of just right now, because, you know, they're just pushing it hard, making it known that it's a really, you know, devastating move that, you know, in the end on Sunday, Drew is going to power out of and Claymore and pin Lashley. I suppose they could put the belt on Lashley, but I just don't think so. I think it's going to be Drew getting the win there, although that does make me wonder what the future will be with Lashley after that, because he's still got the Lana thing going on. She did a backstage interview during his match because Lashley has been telling Lana to chill out and stay away for a while, and she was a little bit delusional. I think Chuck was the one that was interviewing her, and she's like, well, you didn't really answer my question, but what the fuck ever, and she continued to watch the match. So they could do that on Sunday if they wanted to keep Drew rolling, but at the same time maybe not beat Lashley completely clean, just have Lana fuck it up. She could just walk out there or something, do enough to where it, you know, just slightly takes away the focus of Lashley off of Drew for a minute. And then, bam, he eats a Claymore, gets pinned, and then he's pissed at Lana. And the next night on Raw, Lana and Lashley can do the big split, and that whole deal will finally be over. That's probably what they'll do, right? Don't you think? Or do you think it'll be Lashley just eating a Claymore and getting pinned clean? Because at least if Lana's out there, he's got an excuse, and they could maybe do another match at Extreme Rules where he goes down again. Victor Collide, had trouble reading that for a second. Thank you for the $2, brother. I appreciate it. Do you think WWE will be dumb enough to have a DQ at a pay-per-view? They've done it before. If you ever ask yourself, will the WWE be dumb enough to do something? The answer is always yes. 10 times out of 10, it will be a resounding yes. But hopefully not like a main event. They've only done that once. Oh, okay. Thank you, Victor. You're clarifying that. The DQ is about Randy Orton and Edge. Definitely not there, because they're billing it as the greatest wrestling match ever. DQ? Are you fucking kidding me? That would be even a bigger rib. You know, I know a lot of fans are very upset about the tagline, and I was too. A few weeks ago, I was ranting and raving about it, about how stupid it was. But I also started thinking about that if you look at it in the context of it's kind of like a rib on Randy Orton and Edge, and there's probably a whole bunch of people behind the scenes and backstage kind of giving him shit about it. It might be WWE's way of just kind of amusing themselves internally. They've been known to do that before. So if you kind of take it like a joke and you treat it like a joke that it clearly is, both Randy Orton and Edge have come out publicly and said they really wish WWE wouldn't have attached that tagline. I think it's so absurd. It's way too absurd to take seriously. I'm not going to watch Backlash. All for that. Just look at it for what it is. It's dumb. Of course it's dumb. Nobody's debating that. It's just, don't let it get to you. I was far angrier about the once-in-a-lifetime match between John Cena and The Rock, when even at the time of them saying that, we kind of knew it was going to happen again, because you can't have these two guys and have somebody win and lose and not do a return. So even during WrestleMania 28, we said here on this channel, and a lot of people were saying, they're kind of booking themselves in the corner with the once-in-a-lifetime shit, because, they could work again. So it's kind of the same thing here, but I more look at this now in an amusing way rather than an angry way, where before it was like really irking me. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with this company? But in this case, I kind of think this is just a little bit of an internal rib, and really at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything. The tagline is too stupid to really take seriously. Think of the matches we've had. It's not even going to be the same. It's not even going to be the greatest match that night, much less in history, in the same universe where RVD and versus Jerry Lynn exists. Ain't going to happen. But, I'm not letting it bother me. Good to see you, Zane. Thanks for the buck. Always good to see you in here, man. Appreciate it. That leaves us, I believe, with the main event. Boy, we blew through these Raw results pretty quick. We'll get into the Backlash card, too. Maybe even do some early predictions. And I'll let you guys know about my schedule this week as well. I'll be up here on Wednesday after AEW and Dynamite again. And that's going to be fun. So for the main event, we had Asuka taking on Charlotte. So they're at it again. They had the opening match here. And now the main event, you had Bayley and Sasha. Bayley Dose Straps is what she wants to be called. They came out on commentary, and they're great. The few times that we've seen them sit on commentary, they are hysterical, especially Bayley. Bayley in particular, the way she's really kind of all over the place. She cracks me up, and like literally every other woman I've ever met in my life, the two of them want snacks. They're at the announce table there calling the matches, and they're asking, Samoa Joe if he's got any snacks and shit. That was pretty funny. They had the Iconics come out and attack them at the commentary table. They put them down and laid them out. So now we are robbed of Bayley's amazing guest commentary. So the rest of the match had to continue on without them. In the end, like I said, this match was about maybe 23 or 24 more minutes. I was surprised when they were making their entrances. I'm like, isn't this the main event? There's like a full half an hour left here. So if you include the commercials and everything, this was a really, really long match, and it was a good match. And I know I'm not allowed to say it. I mentioned it's in the handbook there in that particular chapter. Thou shalt not compliment Charlotte, but 3 matches, including 2 really good main events on back-to-back nights. She was pretty impressive. She was going hard here, and I'd be a little tired if I was her. Well, I suppose that was taped, wasn't it? Wasn't in your house taped last night, so maybe she didn't do it back-to-back. But still, she has been working double duty a lot. She's been working all these shows. I agree that she didn't need to be on all the shows when she was NXT champion. It was really getting on my nerves when she was showing up on SmackDown. Raw and NXT, that was one thing, because at least she's a Raw person, and it's like, okay, I know the fans are going to bitch about that, but, realistically, it's really typical shit for WWE to do. But then when they started sticking her on SmackDown every week, it's like, enough is enough. How much Charlotte do they think the fans need? So sometimes it's a bit much, but Charlotte and Asuka are 2 of the best. They're 2 of the top contenders for any title on any brand. There's really no problem seeing them in the ring together. I thought for sure this match would have a DQ or a screwy finish or something because of all the elements at play with Bayley and Sasha out there, and we didn't see Nia Jax all night. So when we got to this main event, to me it was going to be a given that Nia Jax was going to interfere. So that's what happened. She came out. She didn't really get involved. I think she got all the way up to the ring apron maybe. It was enough to distract Asuka, and then Charlotte hit Asuka with a big boot to the face. Asuka goes down. Charlotte pins her. Whatever, right? I think it's just going to lead to Asuka choking out Nia Jax on Sunday, and she'll continue to be champion. And I'm really curious, though, where some of the other big players on the women's roster are. Now, one thing I will say about Charlotte, her appearing tonight, I understand it's what WWE wants to do, just get her back on the winning track after she dropped a match last night or whatever, but where the hell is Shayna Baszler? And didn't they bring up Bianca Belair? You could have easily, had them involved here, or maybe Bianca. I can understand maybe saving Shayna and not having her get involved in these type of scenarios where there's a bunch of women in the ring and they're all cutting promos and it leads to an impromptu this or that. I can understand kind of holding her back a little bit, treating her a little bit more like a female Brock type of character, and is more of an attraction as opposed to somebody that wrestles a match every week on TV. So her not being involved, fine, but I feel like you had other women that could have been there instead and let Charlotte come back next week. Take a night off, to rest yourself and your body from the night before, and then next week on Raw, she can come back and win a match, whatever, no big deal. So I don't think she necessarily just needs to kind of be there every week, and I think that that's what gets under the fans' skin a lot, is that it's just so much Charlotte all the time. Now, like I said earlier, this particular victory in a vacuum, I don't care about because, she's not pinning or beating Asuka clean or anything like that. This was used as a vehicle to further Asuka and Nia, and I really have no issue with that. If you put Natalya or anybody else in this position instead and give them the win over Asuka, I don't think anybody's complaining. It's just the fact that it's Charlotte and that bothers everybody. But hey, it's not like it was a attitude adjustment and a pin. It wasn't a spear and a clean victory. It took some shenanigans to get it done, and Asuka took her to the limit, man. These two ladies wrestled for damn near half an hour. It was good stuff. So anyway, that was pretty much your Raw in a nutshell, with Charlotte, after going down in the main event last night, reigned supreme in the main event tonight. And that takes us now into Backlash. We have SmackDown this Friday for the go-home show there. Help me out, because I still don't know. This is the level of just stupidity that exists in my head. The Intercontinental title match is Friday, right? Is it this week? Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles? I have not seen it listed for a Backlash, and I think somebody said, I don't know why I don't know this. I don't know why it's so hard for me to find out this information. But for the life of me, I can't figure out when the fuck this Intercontinental title match is happening. It's annoying. But anyway, here's what I've got for Backlash so far. Like I said, Asuka defending the Raw Women's title against Nia Jax. Asuka all the way there. So let's just knock that match out right now. We talked about Drew and Lashley earlier on. I think Lashley goes down. Hopefully here, it'll be a situation where Lana fucks something up. They've been making a big deal about Lashley not wanting her out there. So I think at some point she'll defy that order, show up, screw him over, and that'll lead to the official divorce between the two. Braun Strowman's not going to drop the belt to The Miz and Morrison, so he'll retain there. No doubt about it. Edge and Randy Orton, we talked about that. Christian can get involved here, cost Edge the victory, and help Randy Orton win. Might set up Randy Orton for a title match or something like that against Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam, perhaps. Or Edge can just beat him, and that's it. And Edge can move on to something else for the next pay-per-view, or at least for SummerSlam. Maybe take the next pay-per-view off. Might be good. Now, if they do the Christian thing, Edge and Christian can work a match at Extreme Rules, and then Edge can go into SummerSlam, or Edge can work his match here, and he won't wrestle again until SummerSlam. I don't think Edge is going to be working every pay-per-view, so that might be what they do. In terms of who wins, I don't know yet. We'll save that for my predictions on Saturday. We got the triple threat women's tags. I think Bayley and Sasha will retain there. I think Apollo will retain over Andrade, and he will possibly go babyface if he's not really there already. And Jeff Hardy, I think, will beat Sheamus. And that's all I've got listed for Backlash so far. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 matches. They might tack one more on the kickoff or something like that. Oh, yeah, you did tell me that it was on SmackDown. I just couldn't remember. Okay, this week on SmackDown. Thank you for that. It's funny that they wouldn't put that on Backlash, Do you think they're doing that because of the greatest wrestling match ever tagline? But it wouldn't matter if it's the greatest match ever. You had one better than that than the 2 days before anyway. So I don't know why it's not on Backlash. It seems like Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles for a championship should be on pay-per-view, but I guess in the end it doesn't matter. Still don't know who's going to win that. I think I'm going with Daniel Bryan to win the title on Friday because I think he could maybe drop it or pass it to Drew Gulak. But then again, AJ's never held the title. I don't think. Either way, I don't care. It's an ugly-ass belt. I wish they'd bring back the old design. So, but yeah, right now I think I'd go with Daniel Bryan because now that Gulak is back, Gulak had a victory over AJ Styles this past week. Actually, now that I say that, now I think AJ might win. I don't know if he'll go down 2 straight matches in a row on SmackDown. But I thought it might be cool for Daniel Bryan to win the IC title. I thought the same thing when he was feuding with Sami Zayn before Sami forfeited the belt, that maybe Daniel Bryan would win it and Gulak would beat him for it kind of thing. they might still go in that direction. We'll see. I don't know. Khali versus Kane, WrestleMania 23 is better than Orton versus Edge. Maybe not that bad. I don't think, that's the thing, I don't think Orton and Edge will be bad. If they didn't have that stupid tagline attached to this match, we would probably all watch this match on Sunday and be impressed. Wow, look at how good Edge looks. Like he didn't miss a beat. He's gone 9 years. And he's in there shredding like we know he can. So, yeah, but now I think it's like going to already add kind of a negativeness to this match. Like the fans are already going to go into it expecting it to suck because there's no way it can live up to that tagline. So that is going to do some damage to the match. But I think if we just judge it for what it is and forget about that stupid tagline, unless they have some crazy trick up their sleeve that's going to make it, one of the most memorable matches of all time, I don't know. But I don't think so. Oh, that's a good possibility too. Yeah, maybe Friday, the IC title match, there's some schmaz ending, goes to DQ, and then they have the rematch at Backlash. They could do the rematch at Backlash anyway, if they wanted. Whoever wins they could wrestle again, or maybe, if it's AJ, if AJ wins on Friday, they might do AJ and Gulak for the title on Sunday, since Gulak beat him last week, and then on Sunday AJ will retain and beat Gulak and get his win back. That could happen too. So I guess it's not completely out of the question that the Intercontinental title could have a spot somewhere on the Backlash card after Friday. I think they're taping that this week. I think some of Backlash. I know the Randy Orton and Edge match, I think, has been taped already, right? I think that's what we heard. Some of Backlash is already in the can. AJ, thanks for the $10, dude. I appreciate it. Greg, what are your thoughts on Edge winning the world title at some point? I think there's a story there, given he never lost it, and can be a great comeback story. Yeah, thank you very much, AJ. I appreciate the super chat there. I agree. I think Edge will win the title. I don't know where. I don't know if he'll go to SmackDown and do the Universal, if he'll do it on Raw, but I definitely see a nostalgia run for Edge. I think that would be great. And yeah, a lot of people forget that he didn't really lose the title. He retired as champion. So, I don't know how long the statute of limitations lasts on something like that. If enough years go by, you don't automatically get to come back and get a title shot now you're old. But he's got a couple of big wins over Randy Orton. I can certainly see them eventually putting him in a title program. But I think that's a ways down the line. Now, I still think it's Drew's time. And I wouldn't put Drew in the ring in a big babyface match right now, unless you turn Drew or something. Otherwise, if he's going to be your babyface champion, I would not put him in there against another babyface, especially another babyface that could potentially get a bigger reaction than him, because I think a lot of fans would like to see Edge win for that purpose. But as somebody brought up earlier on, don't rule out Edge turning heel either. Edge going heel could definitely happen down the line. You can already see shades of it a little bit. So, maybe a loss to Randy Orton causes him to go heel. He's already kind of gotten into it with the fans a little bit on social media, who gave his match with Randy Orton at WrestleMania some shit and all of that. So, I could see that happening. I'm still in the honeymoon phase of Edge. To me, it's still surreal and awesome to see him back. So I'm not in any rush to see him go heel, but they could do that. But I think that absolutely he'll win. There's 2 belts there, so they are definitely going to give him one of them for something. And maybe at this point, save something like that for WrestleMania time. I don't know if he'll necessarily win the title at WrestleMania. Maybe he'll win the title at the Royal Rumble and drop the title at WrestleMania. I wouldn't be opposed to that either. But yeah, Edge, I'd almost be disappointed if he came back and made this big return and didn't find the title before he hung it up again. You know what I mean? Ian, as far as I know, The Undertaker's Last Ride is Sunday, Chapter 4. I think that's coming out on Sunday. Still not sure if it's, you can pick it up Sunday morning or if it's going to be after Backlash. Either way, we probably will not talk about Chapter 4 until 1 week from tonight. Next Monday when I do my Raw review. Even if I happen to catch it on Sunday, I might not have seen all of it, might not be able to talk about it when we do our Backlash review. So 1 week from tonight, we'll be talking about Chapter 4, and then there's only one left. And that reminds me, in terms of my schedule this week, what I did this week, I'm basically going to do the same thing because we got a pay-per-view next week, and my work schedule's a mess. There's going to be no regular Winged Eagle again this coming Saturday. It's just going to be a predictions video coming up kind of late, about an hour later than I normally do. We'll predict Backlash, talk about any wrestling news, that sort of stuff. But on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, I did this last week as well, we're going to do a Dynamite and NXT review. About an hour after both shows go off the air, I'll be watching them both. I'll be split screening them, and then I'll use the final hour there to try to catch up on what I missed on either show. And I'll come up and do a review, live review on Wednesday night of AEW and Dynamite, and that'll knock out, plus this commentary here, that'll knock out the shows, leaving us with very little to talk about for the Backlash predictions. We'll probably just have to touch on whoever the new Intercontinental Champion is and any other results that happened on SmackDown the night before. So that's the schedule for this week. You get me tonight, Monday, Wednesday night after TNT, or actually after AEW and NXT. Then you get me Saturday night for predictions, and then you get me Sunday night for a Backlash review. So 4, if you include this, live streams this week. And hopefully by the end of the week, my numbers will be a little higher because the audience is still pretty low right now. Please do me a favor and smash that thumbs up so we can try to overtake the troll that made 20 accounts and hit the dislike button. Yeah, Diet Water, what the hell? No, it's not. It's just one asshole. We don't get likes like that in here. We don't get dislikes like that in these commentaries, so it's all good. It's one dude. It's one dude with no life and a hell of a lot of time on his hand. Good to see you, Mahmood. Dylan. Wrestling mixtape. Oh, yeah, that's a good question, Joshua. Which IC title design was better, the current one that they have now or the Attitude Era one? Not a fan of either, but I'm probably going to say the Attitude Era one, even though I hated that belt too. Really did. A lot of fans didn't hate it at all. A lot of fans liked it. I just didn't like it. I remember the night they debuted it after WrestleMania 14, they changed the IC in the world. They didn't change the tags up, really. They stayed the same. But Austin and Rock were sporting new belts the next night on Monday Night Raw, which I just didn't like. It was like purple and it was smaller and it just did not look good. But it was around for so long that I did wind up getting used to it. And, I guess it grew on me. But, that is right around the time, too, when I feel like the Intercontinental title died. I think as great as the Attitude Era was, it did so much to hurt that title because it was really, the days of it being the worst course title were gone. They were long gone. And now it was being hot potatoed. And I'll never forget, right around the time of WrestleMania 15, because I was there was a lot of hot potatoing going on with the Intercontinental and the Hardcore. I think Goldust and Road Dogg and Godfather and Jeff Jarrett and all these people, and Owen Hart and Blue Blazer probably at Over the Edge had he not passed away. It was really getting hot potatoed around a lot by a lot of people that we wouldn't expect to really hold that title ever, and it really just lost its value and its meaning. It was all right all the way up until like 97, because you still had it around the waist of guys like Owen Hart. Even in 98 and 99, I think Shamrock had a taste of it, but by then I felt like it was lost. But in 97 and 98, I thought it was still okay, because you had Owen, you had Triple H, you had The Rock. Guys like that were holding it and still defending it well. Ahmed Johnson, Goldust, was so-so, but it didn't feel like it was lost yet in those days. It wasn't until the Attitude Era that it was just being passed around to everybody that I felt like the Intercontinental title pretty much died with the design, right around that time, right around 98. Even though Rock and Triple H would tear it up at SummerSlam and the belt still had meaning up until that point. And I think is that when Shamrock won it, or he won it in 99? There was a tournament, right? And Shamrock won the Intercontinental title. That was all right. But yeah, by the time we got to like WrestleMania 15, because I remember there was like some 4-way or something for the title on that card. It was just, the title was dead in the water in my eyes. Hasn't really recovered, in my opinion, in 23 years now. Pretty sad. Very sad, I should say. Yeah, and the old IC title, it was a little bit, it did have a little bit of that similar look. Not a lot, but if you looked at that Attitude Era title closely, it did sort of resemble the classic a little bit, but a lot more than the current one does. I'm just not a fan of the current one. It just completely changes the whole identity of it. Yeah, Godfather, D-Lo. Although, I mean, I like D-Lo, I probably like better as Intercontinental Champion than Godfather. Because D-Lo I liked. So you had some decent champions stuck in there, but for the most part, it was it was mostly just given to everybody, because by that point the TV had ramped up. You had live shows every week, all sorts of matches, and it was really being hot potato. And I remember Billy Gunn was supposed to be in the mix. I remember in '99 I thought Billy Gunn was going to be in a title contender for the IC. Road Dogg was going to be a contender for the Hardcore, but they swapped him. Billy Gunn was like Hardcore champion, and Road Dogg was the Intercontinental champion. I have no idea why, but it was just a big pain in the ass. So, I really wish we could go back to the old days. But I don't think we'll ever be there again. Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. I understand they want to do a new design and stuff. It's just like, why did they change it so drastically? A lot of people like the design. I thought maybe if that belt was a brand new belt that was introduced, I'd probably be okay with it. Or if it was an NXT title or something like that, but just replacing that design. It's a total pet peeve at my channel, on this channel. Oh, I think we found the person that made the 20 accounts. First of all, you spelled "your" wrong because you're an uneducated douchebag. I'm going to call your mom and tell on you and report you. Victor Colon, thanks for $2 more. Do you think the last ride is Undertaker's retirement? We talked about that. I hope not. I still am holding out hope for the Survivor Series. But given the nature of this documentary, the fact that it's 5 parts, the fact that they're making us wait now, and I talked about that, maybe the Undertaker's retirement doesn't come in the form of a match. It comes in the form of an announcement on a big 5-part documentary, because it's been good. It's been one of the best ones they've ever done. And I feel like they're saving something for us to deliver some sort of big news. They've already really peeled back the curtain a lot on The Undertaker and his life and what he's all about, sides of him that we've never seen before. And I feel like he's preparing us. We're getting to know Mark. That way, when he goes into the Hall of Fame, it's not going to be weird. We always speculated, what's Taker going to do when he gets inducted to the Hall of Fame? Is he going to come out there, die, and do his acceptance speech that way? Or is he going to be more himself and talk more like a person? He's never even made a Hall of Fame appearance outside of that one Paul Bearer tribute there. So this could all be part of it. He could be going into the Hall of Fame here in LA next year. I mean, provided everything works out and there's no pandemic that fucks it up and WrestleMania goes off without a hitch, this could be it, man. This could finally be it for The Undertaker, but I'm hoping that he has a match. Still don't know the pay-per-view dates set yet. They probably should have Survivor Series nailed down by now, I would think. There was no guarantee that it would even fall on that particular date, but the 22nd to me was the date that they would hold Survivor Series on, because for 2 reasons, where the biggest one is because it's not attached to Thanksgiving weekend. I don't think WWE wants to do Survivor Series on the Sunday of Thanksgiving, just because a lot of people are traveling, less people are doing their normal routine, and might not be watching the show. So it's usually on a weekend that's separate from Thanksgiving, and the 22nd is this year. It's not on Thanksgiving weekend. So to me, that's the date, and that'll be the 30th anniversary to the day. So for them not to use him in some way there, or to do something, or I don't know. A lot of people talked about Sting, still having a Sting match. That could be great. And now that WWE has ventured into more cinematic production, like Boneyard matches and stuff, there's a chance now you could pull off a Sting Undertaker match, where there's no way you could do it inside of a ring in front of 80,000 people. But maybe if you, have them fight out in a graveyard somewhere and edit it and put it all together, it might look pretty good. So, maybe there's still a chance that something can happen there. They might be saving Sting for part of that documentary. There's talk that he's no longer under contract with WWE. He might even turn up in AEW, but maybe they lay the groundwork for something there, or tease something in that. I don't know. Maybe they're letting Sting out of his contract just to throw everybody off in order to surprise the shit out of us with some announcement. I don't know. But it could be the end. We'll see. I don't know what the rumors are. Does anybody know? Anybody heard anything? Any rumblings? Any ideas? There's news going around. WWE are bringing the old title back. You talking about the IC? I don't know. I don't see it happening. I just don't think WWE. They probably spent all that money And they're just going to go with it now and say, too bad, fans. Sucks for you. Get used to it. And honestly, you know, if you're a 15-year-old fan, what do you care? Do you remember that belt? No. You know, you have no even if you're fucking 25, you don't remember that belt. So, you know, for me, it has such a personal, you know, history with me because of Savage and Tito and Brett and Perfect and Shawn and Razor and all these guys that I just absolutely loved growing up. But, you know, to a more modern fan, they don't have that connection with the belt. So it really doesn't matter. And that's probably why WWE changed it up. I think Tito was the first, not you, Tito. My cat looked at me. Santana was the first guy, I believe, to hold that. I don't remember that on Valentine. And that was one of my favorite IC title feuds ever, is Valentine and Tito. That was pretty brutal for a kid. It felt real to me. It felt real. So by the time Tito got his hands on it, then Savage took it off of him, and then next thing you know, it's Steamboat and Honky and Warrior, and oh my, what a time. What a time to be alive. Super duper chats rolling in. We'll stay here and hang out and answer some questions and shoot the shit for a while before I get out of here. Got not much else to do tonight, but cook some dinner. And potentially talk to my boy Dan if he's still up for conversation. Dan's hooking me up and helping me with some new designs, some new t-shirt designs, and we're supposed to have a phone conversation about some ideas. So they'll be coming soon, and I'll let you guys know when. Vontae, hey, I thought I banned you, dude. I'm kidding. What's going on, man? I appreciate the $5 very much. Why don't you celebrate Ken Shamrock more? Oh, why don't WWE celebrate Ken Shamrock more? Did he do something wrong? No, I don't think he did. He just had a really short run. He was there 2 years, 2.5, something like that. Early 97 to late 99, and he was gone. Pretty good guy. I talk to him sometimes on Twitter. Jonathan Snowden just did a big book on Ken Shamrock. It's selling well. He's got a pretty interesting life, but I don't think he did anything specifically to upset WWE or piss Vince off. It's not like WCW was pretty much dead. He never went there. He left in 99 and still never went there. So, the only thing he did was really turn up in TNA. I don't think that really pissed Vince off, but I know he had personal problems he was going through as well. Plus, a couple years later, Brock came along. If Shamrock would have stayed in WWE and stayed dominant, and then he ran into Brock one day, that would have been pretty cool for that confrontation to happen. But Ken Shamrock, I feel like, was like the appetizer to Brock. Ken Shamrock was very good. He was very believable. He looked like $1 million. I could not believe the way he looked physically in 1997. Just how jacked he was. And, he was a scary fucking dude. And WWE never pulled the trigger on him by putting the title on him. They came close. I thought after the screw job, it was going to be Shamrock. There was even talk of putting Shamrock in the ring with Brett if they wanted to get the belt off of him, because even though Brett's a tough guy and could beat the shit out of Shawn Michaels, he couldn't beat the shit out of Shamrock, and Shamrock would just choke him out or pin him or whatever. And then he got the title shot against Shawn at the end of 97 there, and I think that was it. And mostly after that, it was IC title stuff. So I don't know. I think Shamrock should go in the Hall of Fame, though. Even for the short time he was in WWE, he did a lot of other stuff. He's still wrestling here and there, even as recently as this year for TNA, right? So I don't know why they don't celebrate him much, probably just because there's nothing in it for them. There's not a lot of maybe money to be made. I don't know if you could really do like maybe a WWE Network piece now you could do, but I don't think there'd be enough almost like meat on the bone to do a Ken Shamrock DVD or full documentary in WWE, because like I said, he had a pretty short run. So, maybe a Where Are They Now thing or in the future or some sort of piece on the network I think would be cool. Catch up with Shamrock and talk about his time here and the matches he had. I'd love to see that. But specifically, I don't think he pissed anybody off in WWE. Certainly no worse than, and didn't burn any bridge any worse than anybody did there that's now back in the fold and back in the Hall of Fame. Thank you, Dre, for another one, man. Good to see you again. Working on a live stream for Dre later on this month. I'll have a date on that soon. What do you consider to be the worst ring gear? My vote goes to whatever the hell Jeff Jarrett was wearing back in the day. That was pretty bad. That thing, that t-shirt looked like it was in those paper shredders or whatever for office buildings and stuff. Kind of looked like one of those. That was pretty bad. Although it wasn't bad enough for him to not go back to it, because he did. He had that goofy shit. Then he wore it in WCW, showed up in WCW wearing the same thing. His run there didn't last very long, came back in late 97, cut that whole shoot promo on Raw, which is a Raw that I really like because I didn't know he was coming back. That was not picked up by me on the hotlines or the dirts or anything like that. I was not aware that he was going to be showing up on Raw. So when he did, I'm like, holy shit, Jeff Jarrett is back. Cut that shoot promo. Excuse me. And then he started wearing that really silly ass outfit. And he had the different music, and he was the world's greatest man or some shit like that. And he was had all these demands, these contractual demands of what he needed to survive behind the scenes and stuff. And that didn't last. And then right around, I was there the next year at Unforgiven 98. It was right around that time where he returned. I don't think it was at the show, but I think it was on Raw a couple weeks before. They brought in Parker. What do they call him in WWE? What the hell was he in WWE? Not Colonel Parker. He was the fucking was his name? Tennessee Lee. And then he brought back that silly outfit. He's got the hat back, the lit up hat, and he was back into being the J-A-F-F-J-A-R-R-E-T-T, Double J, Jeff Jarrett. And it was hideous. And then he changed it again. He would carry that all the way into SummerSlam, get his head shaved. Then he would lose the gear, start wearing the short trunks, team up with Owen, win the tag titles. Owen would pass away. Jarrett would win the Intercontinental title. And a few months later, he was off to WCW to follow Russo and Ferrara there because they would give him the title. And that was that. Jeff Jarrett. Chris, thank you for the $2. Why couldn't we watch with you like before? Don't know what that means. Maybe it means Raw reaction. I just kind of stopped doing them. They were getting fucking old. I'm going to bring back reactions, though. I reacted to Money in the Bank this year. Maybe I'll react to SummerSlam in August, wherever that happens to be. And then maybe when we get audiences back in the arena, maybe I'll pick back up the Raw live streams or their Raw live reactions. Those used to be a lot of fun, but they got to be draining, man. I was doing this every Monday, and I had to be ready by the time Raw went off the air or on the air, and we'd do 3 hours, and then I'd stay up for another hour after that, and it just became a lot. And a lot of times it was just talking and just a lot of nothing, and, you know, it wasn't like a real review or anything. So I kind of wanted to go back to these to where we could actually talk about the show, talk about the results of the show, where I wasn't too tired from sitting here for 3 hours where I wanted to get off and eat or something like that. So I figured it would be best for me to kind of go back to doing these for the time being, but I am still going to be doing live reactions here and there. I still do it. Thanks for another buck, Zane. Appreciate it. Another one from you too, Chris, as well. Thank you for $2 more. Why couldn't you go live while Raw was on like before? Oh, so you asked that twice. Yeah, well, I kind of just told you there. I'll do those again. Then maybe just randomly one week, I'll say, you know what? I feel like doing a reaction this week, so I'll do it. So make sure you're a follower of mine over on Twitter, because if I ever decide to do that, I will let you guys know over there. And we'll do one of those soon. We'll do another reaction at some point. But yeah, I did that for over a year, and it was just getting to the point where I'm like, I want to review the shows. I want to talk about them. And what I found myself doing is every time we had a reaction, literally just like 5 or 10 minutes after the show would go off the air, a lot of times I would say, all right, see you later, see you this week or whatever. And we wouldn't hang around and talk about the show very much. So I kind of wanted to do that. So it's not 3 hours of me just sitting here occasionally saying something during a match. I thought this would be better, but they'll be back. They're not gone forever. Never fear. Tennessee Lee. Damn, he had a short run there too, man. Was early 90s. Thanks, Marcus, for that $2. Appreciate it, man. Was early 90s Sting WWE character in WCW. Was early 90s Sting like a WWE character, do you mean? A lot of people have always said that, you know, Sting was, he was a very WWE-ish looking type of character for WCW. A lot of people thought that if he would have been in WWE during that time, it might have been him getting all the shots, not Warrior, because he was infinitely better in the ring than the Warrior. Had maybe didn't have the intensity, or at least matched his intensity. Now, maybe not matched his intensity, but definitely had a shit ton of charisma, great character. The kids and the young audience could have easily gotten behind Sting and probably would have understood his promos a little bit better as well. And I think he would have done phenomenally there. You know, I would have liked to see the Warrior be in WCW. I would actually have swapped those two guys. You know, I really would have. I would have put the Warrior in WCW and let his shitty wrestling run them into the ground and have to watch people like Flair and Arn have to deal with him. That would have been funny. And then Sting in WWE would have just been amazing. But he would have given Hogan a run for his money as a babyface, and that might not have flew, you know. Could you imagine WrestleMania 6, Hogan and Sting instead of Warrior? Sting, I don't know if was quite ready at WrestleMania 6. I think Warrior might have been a bit ahead of him. He was champ by then. What year did Sting win the title? 88? With the rat tail? Or 87? No, I guess no. He was on the map. He was ready by then. I guess he was ready. I guess you could have done that in 90. But I almost feel like maybe one more year would have been better there. Maybe WrestleMania 7 in LA. Sting and Hogan. Ian, probably not. The plan is to not do a live reaction for Backlash. I got a really busy week at work this week as well, so I'm going to be up here very late on Saturday doing my predictions and stuff, so it's probably just going to be a review after Backlash. And you're getting me Wednesday night after Dynamite and NXT. I'll be doing a review there as well. Yeah, no, I think Owen wanted to go to WCW. Owen had some matches on WCW back in the day, but after the screw job, I think the story was that he would have gone, but, you know, Vince, they kind of gave him some more money and said, all right, we'll push you, stay here, kind of thing. Looking back, kind of wish he would have gone. His career would have been in the toilet, but at least he would have been alive, you know? Oh, man, Marcus, favorite Austin Rock match. I saw a few of them in person. More than one. I've probably seen maybe 3 or 4 Rock matches in person. Saw a lot of house shows. I was at WrestleMania 15, but I don't think that was my favorite. Probably, I guess, 17. I kind of like 19 because of the story there, but I think 17 just had so much more going on. But I was there for WrestleMania 15. I was also at Survivor Series 2001, and they were the last 2 in the ring for that as well. Saw him wrestle a bunch of times on the house shows. Saw him work for the Intercontinental title as well. So I saw a lot of Austin Rock shit live, but it's hard to beat that Mania 17 match. Would have been cool to be alive for that. That was good. Diet Water, thank you for the $2. Barry, I don't know. We had a guy come with make 23 accounts and hit the dislike button. We already disposed of him in the chat earlier. He said, he goes, you're fake, and he misspelled your. So I guess I'm fake, like his education. Diet Water, thanks for 2 of those, man. Thanks for the $4 popping in. Appreciate it, man. No, I do not think James Ellsworth will ever be on WWE TV again. I think he's got a little bit of stink attached to him right now that WWE doesn't want to touch. Yeah, well, the last week on the channel, the stream numbers have been super low. So we'll bounce out of that. We always do. Happens all the time. We'll have like 2 or 3 months of awesomeness, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, where the fuck is everybody? And then a couple weeks later, they all come back. So I don't know why some Mondays we're sitting here with 1,000 people in the chat, and right now we've got 143. I don't know why this happens this way, but it does. We'll deal with it. I don't think it had anything to do with the events of last week. We talked about it twice last week on the shows. Last Monday and last Wednesday, we actually did a charity stream, and we donated over $100 to the Black Lives Matter cause, which was kind of cool. I just wanted to do something, charity-wise, so I appreciate you guys hanging out last Wednesday. And we'll do it again this week. We'll just do a normal stream, and we'll come up and talk AEW and NXT. Hopefully the shows will be good, and there'll be a lot to discuss because Wednesday nights are fun, and I'm not always going to be able to do that. These are very special occasions. Now that I'm back at work and everything's kind of getting back to normal, sort of, everything's a little different. I'm not right back into my same old routine life, working the days and being off the days I normally am. Everything's a little bit different right now, so that's why the last couple of weeks I've changed things up and I've kind of altered my work schedule to be able to be here for, certain nights and stream and stuff. So I think this week, tonight, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday will be a fun week of streams. We'll hang out, and hopefully by then we'll pass the 30K mark. I think we're about 70 subscribers or something like that away from 30,000. So at some point we'll get there. Maybe never. Thank you, Barry, for $2. Do I like the Hogan versus Triple H match from Backlash? No, I didn't like that match. I didn't. I remember watching it being like upset. I was happy. I was okay with Hogan being back, but Triple H just won the title. To me, to this day, it still blows my mind that he won the title and then and the main event of WrestleMania, no less, and then dropped it at the very next pay-per-view. I still to this day think that's the only time it's happened, right? And it was just like, after all those years of making fun of Hogan, that match was in 2002. 6 years before then, they were making fun about how old Hogan was and the billionaire Ted skits and shit. Now we're a full six years later. Hogan is just physically a shell of himself. He could barely wrestle when he was in his prime. Now he's here as an old man, a jacked old man, but an old man nonetheless. And Vince is so happy to have him back. He's up. Here's your belt. You know, thanks Triple H. I'm going to take that now and give it to the guy that's been gone for 9 years. I remember just being a little bit surprised at it. But, you know, looking back, I feel like WWE maybe had to do that because when Hogan turned heel or turned face after WrestleMania and he got that really big reception, it was like the WWE audience, you know, the people that remembered him when he was there last were just happy to see him back, and WWE had no choice but to kind of put the belt on him. So the fact that they did that and just gave him the nostalgia run for a month, because I think it was a month, right? Taker beat him at the next show, I think. That was it. So just kind of giving him a taste of that, I thought was all right, but I feel like Triple H almost like suffered for it in the process. And after all those years of, you know, fighting against Hogan and WCW, a lot of people by then, Hogan had the reputation of, you know, that doesn't work for me, brother, and always wanting to be on top and hogging the spotlight. And, you know, Triple H is a guy that's come up through the ranks. He wasn't even married to Stephanie yet, came back from an injury, won the title, the big stage, and now he's got to pass it to this asshole. So yeah, I remember not liking it at all. Not liking it. I recently watched it on, I don't think I watched it on the network. I think I pulled it up on WWE's YouTube page. They had that match, and I think they've edited the Jimi Hendrix out of the ending there and put their own bullshit music in there so they don't have to pay those cheap bastards. All right, we're getting to the part of the stream where weird questions are being asked. What are my favorite tacos ever? I actually had tacos today from Rubio's. I had the Coastal Trio. It was a mahi taco, classic fish taco, and a shrimp taco. Mwah, delicious. Yeah. Oh, and as a matter of, yeah, Hogan beat Taker and gave him the worst chokeslam ever. As a matter of fact, oh, where would it be? That DVD is worth some money, and I have it. Let's look it up on eBay. I think I have Judgment Day 2002. WWE Judgment Day 2002. See what this thing goes for these days. It used to be rare. 150, 160. I think I have it. Pardon me. Yeah, right here. Fucking Judgment Day. This bitch. So for some reason, I don't know why, but when I got this, I somehow realized that it was like super crazy rare. So yeah, it's on eBay right now for about $150. Oh, there's one. Oh, there's a tape. There's a tape for 80. VHS is 100. There's another VHS for 260. Holy shit. Wait, are these DVDs or tapes? Yeah, DVD. Huh. I don't know why. Just must be low print. Anyway, I got a rare one on me. Good times. That was the choke slam from Heck. That was the one thing that I remember much about this. And I think at this time, too, I think another reason why I have this DVD is because this pay-per-view, can't believe I remember this. This was 18 years ago, but I didn't order it. Something was going on. I remember my roommate and I had switched from cable to satellite, and we had just gotten some DirecTV put in, and something was going on, and I couldn't get the pay-per-view. I just couldn't order it, and I had no other options to see it anywhere else, so I just didn't see it. It's one of the few pay-per-views I ever missed. So I think that was another reason why I went looking for that DVD, but don't remember what I paid for it. I certainly didn't pay $150 for it, because I remembered that, and I also wouldn't have done it. But yeah, don't know why it's so much. Yeah, Bash at the Beach 2000 is expensive too. I have that VHS tape. I've got Bash at the Beach 2000. Don't know how much. I don't think that's that expensive. I talked about that one in my collection video. 2000. Yeah, let's see what that one goes for. Holy shit, that's going for 500? Oh, maybe I don't have that one. Maybe I don't have 2000. I got something else. I got a different Bash at the Beach. Not 2000. Well, yeah, I don't think I got a 500. If I had a $500 VHS tape, I'd unload that on eBay. Huh. Interesting. I don't know, Brian. I mean, you're talking about the screw job. You're opening up a can of worms that could potentially take us on a 3.5-hour ride here. There's a lot of what ifs with the screw job, and they could have just put Taker involved in that, you know, and take the belt off of Brett, because to the best of my knowledge, he wasn't booked for Survivor Series, right? I don't think he was on the show. So yeah, why didn't they? I think, well, it was just the advertised match. I don't think they wanted to change that. And plus Vince, you know, no matter what he said, he just wanted Shawn to have that belt. Plus Taker was moving into the Kane stuff. Not that he couldn't be champion for that, but I don't know. I don't know why they did that. Brett claims he offered to drop the belt to other people, drop it to Steve, drop it to Taker. And also Brett, I don't think was keen on dropping it to anybody in Montreal. I think that was another big part of it. But dropping it the next night on Raw, I don't get it. So I don't know. There's a lot of things they could have done. That's for sure. The biggest thing with Vince, I believe, was him really wanting that belt off of Brett before WCW was legally able to announce Brett coming over. Because I think the next night on Nitro, they were allowed to say it, because they did. They came out with the little American flags, or the little Canadian flags, excuse me. Remember that? So I think that was a big thing behind it too, where Brett was like, okay, I'm willing to drop it, but just not here in Montreal. Let me drop it the next night or whatever. But by then, it kind of would have been too late, because Vince didn't want it to be known that his champion was jumping ship. So they were just all stuck. Everybody was just stuck in a position and nobody wanted to budge. So I don't know why they didn't, you know, pull a fast one. Nowadays they do that all the time. You know, they'll have somebody attacked behind the scenes and then they don't make their match. You know, back in the day, Vince was so concerned about delivering on an advertised match, where they change that shit all the time. Now, card subject to change, right? So all you have to do is have Shawn Michaels get his ass kicked by The Undertaker backstage. Taker takes a spot, beats Brett as a new champion. Everybody's happy, right? But it didn't happen. Thank you for the $2, Nick Webb. I appreciate it. A couple of them do. I don't go around advertising this stuff because then I'll just be trolled by all of them. But yeah, I got a short list of people that know what's going on with me. Marcus, thank you as well for the $2. I appreciate it. Better match: Taker, Rock Angle, Benoit, Triple H, HBK. Ooh, well, Taker, Rock Angle. Oh no, I thought that meant Triple H. I was about to say I was there. SummerSlam 2000. Taker, Rock Angle. I don't even know when that was. Was that King of the Ring? Maybe. Was that when Austin took his ball and all that shit, or maybe it was a Vengeance match? Are we talking 02 here? I'm probably going to go with Benoit, Triple H, and HBK, because I don't really remember a lot about the Taker Rock Angle triple threat. Or was that the one? No, was that the one that... what was the one where Undertaker threw Shane off? I don't know. I kind of don't even know when that match happened. So let's go for sure Benoit, Triple H, HBK, because, I mean, that match happened twice, but the WrestleMania 21 I thought was really good. It's hard to vote against that. Okay, Vengeance 2002. Don't really remember. I have it. I've seen it. I've got it on recorded, but I don't remember much about it. I just know that Rock won the title, right? Because Rock came back and WWE was very appreciative of him coming back a little bit early to fill the Stone Cold void. And I think that's why they put the belt on him, but he was only a transitional champion to pass it over to Brock, which Marcus is reminding me of right now. Yeah, you wonder, like, what, you know, it seems like from an outsider's perspective looking in on the screw job and stuff, it feels like there were a lot of things that could have been done. Oh, why didn't they just do this? Or why didn't they just do that? And there seems like there was always a reason on the other side, like either from Vince's side or Brett's side. Well, can't do this because of blah, 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 or whatever. And I think it really comes down to that. And I don't know why the dates worked out like that. I don't know why it happened to fall on that day, but apparently the next night after Survivor Series on Nitro, WCW was allowed to say Bret Hart's coming, where they previously weren't allowed to say anything. So I don't know why that was. Probably had something to do with the 30-day bullshit or whatever. Don't know why that just happened to be on that day, but that really does change everything, you know. And it was never a matter of Bret showing up on Nitro with the belt. I think even Vince knew Bret wasn't going to do that. It was more about just Bischoff being able to say Bret Hart's coming, and he's still got the gold around his waist right now. So that would have been a big blow. to WWE in their minds. Where I still don't think it would have been a huge deal. Brett could have just dropped the belt the next night and he's still gone anyway, so what? But Vince wanted what he wanted. Jordan, I could probably name a lot more than 3 guys that could have been involved in the invasion angle. I can't pick 3 guys. I have to pick 10. Hogan, Hall, Nash, Goldberg, Flair, Sting. All of them, that would have been great. And some injured guys, even on the WWE side. Triple H, Chris Benoit, Jerry the King Lawler. All those guys weren't around for the invasion angle. So if I'd have to pick only 3 guys, it would probably all be on WCW's side to help beef up that shitty roster. So I'd probably go Goldberg, Sting, and probably Flair. But you're still leaving out Hall, Nash, Steiner, everybody else that made WCW important. How can you not have them involved there? Maybe Sting and Flair should have been involved for sure because they're really, WCW mainstays. And, maybe hold off Hogan and maybe do Sting, Flair, and Goldberg, and then hold off the NWO for another time or something. But they needed a lot more than what they got, and 3 guys isn't nearly enough. And like I said, Triple H was hurt. Benoit was hurt. There was a lot of guys hurt and out that would have added a lot to the whole thing. Yeah, Steiner during the invasion with a live mic. I mean, he got, I think, like one of the biggest reactions the night of the simulcast when Vince was in the ring and he was basically reading off to the fans all the WCW stars to gauge their reaction. And I'm pretty sure Big Papa Pump got like the biggest reaction, maybe even more so than Goldberg. I don't even know if Vince mentioned Goldberg, but they were chanting his name a little bit. You could hear it. But, they knew it was going to be nothing but Chuck Palumbo and Sean O'Hare and guys like that. I mean, he wasn't going to let Luger and Jarrett come back either. Rey Mysterio didn't come in over that. He didn't come in for like another year or more. A lot of those guys sat out their contracts. DDP was there, but he wasn't the same DDP. That stupid stalker shit with The Undertaker and Sarah, I thought was a big waste of time. And it didn't make DDP look good at all, and it didn't do anything in his WWE career. It would have been really hard in WWE to match what DDP did in WCW, because he was already kind of different by that point anyway. The hair was gone. He was really hot in like 97 with the Diamond Cutter and not joining the NWO. Great match he had with Savage around that time and shit. So he was so hot then. But by the time, you got to the buyout and stuff, he wasn't the same DDP. At that point, he was in the faction with Canyon and who else? Bigelow maybe or something. So he was kind of a shell by that point anyway. And when he came into WWE, initially it was pretty cool. When he took that mask off to reveal himself as the Stalker, it got a pretty big reaction, but it went nowhere. And he was just murdered by The Undertaker and pretty much done. Then by the following year, he's smiling and that's not a good thing. It's a bad thing. It's not a good thing. Or what the fuck did he say? It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. And he was doing that. And then that was it. So again, I think DDP, if you brought him in with that core group, DDP, Sting, Flair, you could add Goldberg to the mix. Whatever's left of any Horseman reincarnation by that point, bring them in. And then, of course, you can still do the NWO stuff and have all sorts of talent there, but it was just not to be. It was a mess. Couldn't bring Jarrett in. I mean, Jarrett was one of their more recent champions, and even he wasn't coming in because Vince fired him right there on fucking Raw. I don't know why he spelled gone with 2 O's, 2 N's, and 2 E's, but he did. Basically kind of a spoof on how Jarrett spelled his last name, but he was gone and he wasn't coming back in. Same goes with Luger. But they wouldn't have been that valuable. Luger by that point, Not going to lie, though, might have been cool to see Miss Elizabeth come back in. And Savage, just for one. I just wish, Could have had Savage, like Savage and Hogan and Elizabeth could have had like one final moment in a WWE ring somewhere, like on Raw, where the Mega Powers can be posing and Liz is, in between them. Just would have been fun for me if they could have worked something like that out. Yeah, and then keeping Nitro going, I think was a big mistake. I know there's talk now, years later, they say that the plan was to maybe even give WCW Monday nights and have Nitro on Monday nights and have WWE on SmackDown or whatever. I don't know if I necessarily want to see that, but I definitely would have liked to see them have a chance to relaunch and do something. Maybe in more modern times they can do that when they can pull a lot more strings with TV deals. Back then, might have been a little bit different to get something like that on the air, but it's a shame they didn't at least try. They should have at least tried. Thank you for another one, Marcus. Appreciate the $2. Who did more jobs than Flair or Rock as top guys? Who did more jobs than Flair or Rock as top guys? More jobs than those guys as top guys? Well, Flair did a lot. So did Rock. Just trying to think of multi-time champions. Cena, Triple H, Randy Orton. They've all jobbed a lot because you can't be a 15-time world champion without being a 14-time loser. So probably guys in more modern times, because back in the day, Hogan on top didn't do any jobs. Savage on top didn't really do any jobs. Ha! That's an interesting one. Fuck, marry, kill, Pelosi, Biden, and Cuomo. Jesus, Canyon Price. You're not making it easy. I don't want to kill any of them. I guess I'm killing Cuomo. Reluctantly fucking Pelosi. And we'll be slightly nauseous. And I guess I'm going to marry Biden. Because when he loses his marbles, I can inherit all of his millions. Dre L, thank you very much, man. Appreciate the $5. Biggest missed opportunity match: DDP versus Rock, Sting versus Taker, or Rock versus Shawn? Rock, well, probably Sting versus Taker in terms of the magnitude. But for me, Rock and Shawn. Rock and Shawn in like 2002 or 3, right before Rock left. You could have done it. You had a window. Rock and Shawn. They could have put that together. That would have been amazing. So by the time Rock came back, Shawn was retired. You couldn't even do it late. You had like a year there to get it done. That would have been a great WrestleMania 20 match. You put Benoit and Triple H one-on-one, and then Rock, I know, was coming in more as an attraction. He was just coming in to back up Mick Foley. It wasn't going to mean a whole lot. Even at WrestleMania 20, I remember they used like 3 theme song old theme for The Rock. Like when he came out, I'm like, they haven't used this in years for him. I think it was just like the only one they had on file or something. It just didn't sound good. I'm like, man, they are really phoning. Everybody's just phoning this entire appearance in. So it didn't feel special at all. They lost or whatever. But if Rock was taking it seriously and he was training and this was going to be a big deal, and you set up Rock versus Shawn Michaels, epic encounter, that could have taken the place of Goldberg and Brock as far as that big attraction dream match, because Goldberg and Brock was an abortion, and Rock and Shawn would have just been a masterpiece, absolute masterpiece, in the Garden, no less. Same place where both guys have won world titles and had memorable ladder matches. Oh, no, it wouldn't have been in the Garden. That's where Survivor Series was, right? Yeah, why did they do that? Why did New York get 2 big pay-per-views? They had, because Nassau had SummerSlam, right? Yeah, so if you did it in 02 and maybe pushed it, didn't do the Elimination Chamber, and you did Rock and Shawn in the Garden, I'd be into that. For sure. Oh, no, I'm sorry, WrestleMania 20. I got sidetracked there. But it's rich in history for both guys. So I just think that could have been just a huge match. I just think where Rock was in his life, doing movies, he was in the middle of a movie. I think he was even filming at that time. It still wouldn't have felt as big. It would have to be where both guys were all in at the Mecca like that. Oh my God. I would have loved it. K-Dog's Kennel. Every time I see your name, I think of the Kennel from Hell, because I had to watch that live. Recently watched Spring Stampede 1998, where Raven won the U.S. title, then fed to Goldberg. I remember that. Why do you think Raven was so misused in WCW and WWE? I don't know. I don't think either company really had a clear idea how to use him. That character was always going to be better somewhere like ECW with someone like Paul Heyman. I didn't mind it too much at first in WCW with the Flock. That was sort of interesting. He was winning titles. I remember the Goldberg match because I mentioned you guys this before. I used to be like an amateur bowler, a really fucking good bowler. And me and my friends, including Daniel, who might be secretly listening in the chat right now, every Monday back in North Carolina, we would go to the bowling alley, and it was a big, giant party there every Monday night, big leagues and everything, and we'd get a set of lanes, and we'd usually position ourselves right under the TV. We'd control the TV, get up there and change the station. And we could have 2 TVs on sometimes, like the Raw and the Nitro show, and we would bowl like 15 games each and just hang out and watch the shows and all that shit. Well, that night, because we're in the South and a lot of people, and wrestling was huge back then, they would have wrestling on a lot of the TVs, and this was a 40-lane alley, bowling house, so it was big. So all the way down, like, where some of the leagues were going on, they would have Nitro on as well. And I remember the night that Raven took on Goldberg for the title, that was on Nitro, I'm pretty sure, for the US title. And the way the crowd popped in the arena when Goldberg hit the spear on Raven was the same way the people in the bowling alley popped when he hit that. They're like, holy shit. I mean, it was like a mark out moment for everybody. And I remember watching it, in it was a little tiny 19-inch TV that was, mounted up on the ceiling there. I remember we were all watching like, holy fucking shit. And that's what we did like every week back in the day. I remember that match. But, by the time he came into WWE, I thought he had a better chance there than WCW, because in WCW, he was just getting, lost in the shuffle with everybody else, and everybody was taking a backseat to the NWO. In WWE, I liked the way he came in. I think he came in that Taz Lawler match or something, and went on to have some pretty fun matches and shit in WWE, but never got to return to that character. If Raven would have been treated the way he was in ECW, and maybe given a program with the champ in 2000 when he came in, with Austin or something like that, it might have been fun. He could have been involved in the Undertaker stuff. Well, by then the ministry was done, but he could have done something, with maybe the Undertaker trying to get the badass now to return to the dark side, or I don't know, something like that. I felt like a lot was misused with Raven. No, I don't think WWE, though. I think they'll go back to the Garden. They should. They better, for at least for a pay-per-view, but I don't think they're going to be back for Mania. Just don't feel it. I think it's a stadium show from now on. Yeah, I don't know how well a relaunched WCW would have looked back in the day, but I wish they would have at least tried. Remember, WWE went through the trouble of changing the logo? Remember, they changed that red font logo that they used there for a short time with WCW. So they did that, and it looked like they were going to do something, but I think it was almost doomed from the start the minute it was turned into a storyline and an angle, and then Shane took over, because still to this day, when I look back, maybe modern fans don't realize the significance of this, but you got to remember when all of this happened and WCW was bought out, it was happening side by side and simultaneously with your WrestleMania 17 build, which would go down to be really one of your best WrestleManias of all time, probably on the top 3 that they've ever done, was this one. And it was a huge one. They were going back to the stadiums. They had that mega main event of Stone Cold and The Rock, and WWE had never been hotter. The XFL was now launched. Vince McMahon was appearing on, the Bob Costas show, and wrestling was everybody, everywhere. WWE was taking over the world. So for that to take place at the same time, which is already earth-shattering news by itself, WWE purchasing WCW, that would be enough here to shut Twitter down. It would break, like literally break. You wouldn't be able to tweet anything, because it would just, the servers would be overloaded, and wherever those servers are, they would literally be exploding. Sparks would be coming out. We wouldn't even be able to handle and comprehend the news had social media been around back then. So when you combine that with a go-home show to your biggest WrestleMania and one of your more heavily and most heavily anticipated WrestleManias that you've ever had, it was overload for someone like me. Absolute overload. And I remember one of my favorite parts about the buyout was one of the wrestling hotlines that I would call. It was a free one, and just listen to like a quick daily news report from somebody that would roll off a bunch of shit. Well, WCW's fate was really in the balance those last couple of months, like February and March. So I was paying really close attention to that. And, they would always update on what the latest was. I remember hearing the story about Bischoff. At one point, it was almost a done deal. I remember everybody was talking about it. Bischoff's going to buy WCW. And then that didn't happen. And then you started hearing WWE's name tossed around like, holy shit, do you think WWE would buy it? So the hotline that I called every day, though, the hotline host would begin the report with the top story for this hotline reporter was every day, was the new names listed for the gimmick battle royal at WrestleMania 17. It's the only thing he cared about. So when the buyout was official, like it came through the newswire and everything, and then later on in that day, I remember calling the hotline, and he opens up the report. We got huge news to report here. Very exciting stuff. 3 more names have been added to the gimmick battle royal. He goes on to talk about Tugboat and Iron Sheik and fucking Doink or something. And this goes on for 7, 8, 9 minutes. talks about how cool it is that they're in the Gimmick Battle Royal, talks about their career, some of his favorite memories of all of that. And then after that, then he goes, so let's update the names. And then he rolls through all the names that are listed for the Gimmick Battle Royal. And when he gets to the last one, and he goes, in other news, WWE bought WCW. And then that was the end of the hotline report, and it was over. And I had to wait till the next day to hear like more shit. So it's kind of like a rib back in the day. Brett Schwann, don't ever know what happened to him, but that was his name back in the day, running the one of the New York hotlines. Maybe De Blasi or Kevin Castle, one of those guys might know whatever happened to that guy. But I always have that fond memory. It was like he was such a mark for the Gimmick Battle Royal. He didn't care about anything else. So that was fun. Fun little story. Fun little memory for you guys to digest. Mike Witt, you just got done with work. What did you miss on Raw? Well, we just went through it. You didn't miss a ton. Charlotte did battle twice. She tagged up with Asuka to take on Sasha and Bayley and the Iconics in a triple threat tag. We had Charlotte beating Asuka with help from Nia Jax in the main event. Andrade is the new number one contender for the U.S. title. He'll be facing Apollo at Backlash. We had... Other than that, we had a really good peep show, probably one of the better peep shows they've ever done, with Edge and Christian and Randy Orton. Rey Mysterio has been invited to Raw next week by Seth Rollins with Dominic, and that's about it. Other than that, you know, scroll back, rewind a little bit, you'll hear my my detailed thoughts on this. And if you guys are here now that we got a little bit bigger of an audience than before, if you guys can help me neutralize that shitty troll that created 20 accounts and dislike this video and thumbs it up for me and try to get us up to 100 likes, I would appreciate it. But really, all in all, Mike, you didn't miss a ton. I mean, it was still an okay show, but, you know, you could have slept through it. You'd have been fine. No, Greg Gagne did not show up on Raw tonight. I don't think they would bring Greg Gagne back in an empty arena. You got to save that for WrestleMania. You don't just bring someone like that. I mean, maybe CM Punk can come back in an empty arena because nobody gives a shit about Punk. But if it's Greg Gagne, that's got to be WrestleMania. Don't be silly, Mike. You know, WrestleMania. Come on, man. No, Vontae, nobody would want to see The Rock versus Shawn Michaels now. That ship has sailed. We saw what happened when Shawn Michaels shit on his retirement after 9 years or 8 years and came back and had a horrible match in Saudi Arabia. At this point, stay out of the ring. Because, I mean, Rock's pushing 50. I mean, what can Rock do? I'd still like to see him come here to LA and face Roman at WrestleMania next year, but I feel like that window is closing. I cannot believe he never got in the ring again after WrestleMania 29 in 2013. I thought for sure he'd be back for something, and he never did. Never did. You know, Ian, I could see there's been so much talk about multiple day WrestleManias and shows. I mean, hell, we saw it this year with WrestleMania being split into 2 days. But doing something similar to WrestleMania 2, where they went to multiple cities, maybe. I would like, if they did that, it would have to be a New York thing. I like that, because that would be one way to get WrestleMania back into the Garden. If you did a MetLife and a Mania and a MSG Mania combo, you know, because that way I don't think any talent would really be left out, because either way there, that's a thrill. If I'm a piece of talent, you know, for me, it's not necessarily about being in the big arena. To me, being in the small one, being in the arena with so much history like Madison Square Garden is equally big of a thrill as performing in front of 80,000 people would be to me. So I would like to see that if they did another 2-day WrestleMania, do night one at the stadium and then maybe close out night two in the Garden, or do you reverse it? Which do you do first? That might be one thing I think WWE would be open to, because it might be at this point the only way WrestleMania could ever get back into a Madison Square Garden. So if I'm a piece of talent, you know, I'm wanting to play, I'm putting my name down to wrestle at the Garden. Like, I just want to say I wrestled at WrestleMania in Madison Square Garden. That's a great thing to be able to say if you're a wrestler. So I'd be open to that for sure. Worst wrestler of all time, David Flair, Eric Watts. David Flair. Eric Watts wasn't that bad fundamentally. He literally offered nothing. But Flair was... He was nothing. Speaking of those old school New York hotlines, there's another one that I used to listen to all the time, and David Flair would always be a part of their joke every week. So like they would have fans could call and like leave messages, and then they'd answer in the next report. They'd listen to all the messages and answer the questions. So it became a thing where fans would call in and book fantasy matches between David Flair and somebody else. But quickly that somebody else that David Flair would be wrestling would be turning into something else, to where it was like, who would win in a match between David Flair and a dirty diaper? You know, who would win in a match between David Flair and a box of plastic forks? Who would win in a match between David Flair and the blotch on Dusty Rhodes' belly? All the craziest matches you could even think of, and the hotline host would read the matches like it was a real thing, like it was real fantasy booking. They'd read it seriously. They would say, all right, we got a message from Joe Blow in Texas, and he wants to know who would win an Iron Man match between David Flair and the blotch on Dusty Rhodes' belly. And then they talk about it, and they're like, well, I don't know. It's gonna be close. And then eventually they'd go, I'm gonna go with the blotch on Dusty's belly. So every time that Flair was booked into a fantasy match, whatever he wrestled would always win against him. And it became, you got to be pretty creative. You know, some of the things that people would call in and say, you know, a warm bucket of cat vomit, all that stuff, you name it, it was pitched. And those were the days way back before the internet. I'm glad I don't have to call the hotlines anymore. Hey, Madeline, good to see you. How have you been? There's this app called Cameo. I've heard about Cameo, where celebs can record videos for people. As a grad gift, my aunt got me a video of Mick Foley talking to me, and it was hilarious. Really? That is awesome. I'm sure you mean Mick Foley, right? Yeah, I think I've heard of Cameo. Yeah, I've thought about doing that, like, because a lot of people can get wrestlers to do their intro. Hey, this is Danhausen. You're watching GoodMicWork commentaries or whatever. So I should try to get into some of that. Spice up some of my little intros here, but that's cool. That's really cool, Madeline. I'm happy to hear that. And congratulations on graduating. I know it sucks to have to graduate in this year with everything, because 2020 is such a cool year to graduate in. You know, it's just because it looks cool on like your diploma or your yearbook or your tassel or whatever. 2020, nice even year. And it sucks that so many couldn't have a graduation. I had some graduation parties come into the restaurant this past weekend, and they did one downtown, like in a parking lot, where they actually still did a walk, but all of the families, I think, were in their cars watching on like an iPad, and they could honk their horns and yell out the windows and shit. So some places have tried to do some stuff, but either way, it probably just, it's kind of a bummer. Oh, Blackjack Brown. That doesn't ring a bell. Ronnie. David Flair and Buck Zumhofe Iron Man match. Mike Witt, you have just found the one match that David Flair would win. Because I hate Buck Zumhofe. Creepy little pervert. Coco would face his... I don't think Coco would fight his own bird. That'd be an interesting match, though. Poor Frankie. We had Frankie, we had Damien, we had Matilda. What else did we have back in the 80s? We had so many freaking animals. We had George the Animal Steel. He counts. That's hysterical. In the video, he said he was missing his bottom front teeth, and he was like, in the request, you didn't tell me I had to put my teeth in, so I didn't. That's hilarious. Nick, me versus you in a last man standing match? I would never murder you. I wouldn't do that. It's the same reason why, you know, I don't ever want to face Brock Lesnar in a match, because I'll fucking kill him, and I don't want to do that to him because I want to see him in the ring. You know, I don't want to end his career and make him have to go to physical therapy so he has to relearn how to speak. You know, I don't want to do that to him. I like Brock, and I like you too, Mick, or Nick, and I would never hurt you. Never. I don't know, Robert. If the Quizlemania people call me, I don't know how good I'll do. I'll embarrass myself. Greatest wrestling rib of all time. Either the one on Sunday, the greatest match of all time tagline for Edge and Orton, or something that Owen did. Owen had some good ones. I think one of the most recent ones I heard, and I don't know where I heard this recently again. I know it's a story I've heard, but I've forgotten about over the years. Jonathan Coachman was ribbed hard, apparently in one of his first, few weeks in WWE, where the cops came and arrested him and took him out, and everybody was in on it, and they put him in the car and drove him down to the station and all that. That was a very, very elaborate rib. You can read up on that, and it's fucked up, too. It's really fucked up that they would go to that length to screw with this guy, but they did. And that's one of the more elaborate, better ribs that I can remember. Look up that story. I can't remember a lot of the specific details now, but that one was pretty good. Now, Shawn will probably have me beat in trivia. I have plenty. I don't take a backseat to anybody in terms of wrestling knowledge, but like fucking stats and shit, I ain't going to know that, and he does. So yeah, I'm not going to win any trivia contests against anybody. I'd lose trivia contests to people that I have more wrestling knowledge than. I know I would, just because I can't, I've got the 80s and 90s covered, but anything beyond that, I am lost for the most part. Anyway, you guys know how I am. Last person to hold the belt before it changed the Attitude Era belt was Rock. Rock had it at WrestleMania 14. I believe he lost. Was that the deal where he lost it to Shamrock and then it was reversed or something like that? And then the next night on Raw, he just showed up in a promo. That was the first time I saw the title, was when it was like a Nation of Domination backstage interview. And that was the same night that they booted Farouk out too. So it must have been before that segment happened, and Rock showed up and he had that belt over his shoulder. I'm like, what the hell is that thing? That purple piece of shit. Get that out of here. It's not Barney's title. I didn't know if the Flair 24 thing was out. Is that out? I want to watch that. I'm looking now. Oh, it is. Hey, does anybody else have this problem? Every time I go into WWE Network, I always have to sign in. Why can't you just keep me signed in? When was that released? There it is right there, the final farewell. That must have been last night, and I'm just a complete idiot, and I missed it. Huh, I'll watch that probably tonight. I know, Vontae, I caught myself saying that. Favorite pay-per-view of all time? Again, it's really hard to nail down one. Is it one that I've been to, or is it one that I just liked? I'd have to give that some thought to narrow it down to just one. I'd probably have to say WrestleMania 3. I was there. It was a big deal. Still one of the biggest shows to ever happen. The biggest show probably ever happened in wrestling in terms of a main event and, history. But one pay-per-view just great from top to bottom. There's so many that I could at least put on the list. A couple of SummerSlams, lots of good ones. I've never done that before. I've done like favorite SummerSlam pay-per-views. I've done favorite WrestleMania pay-per-views, but never just one pay-per-view that I found better than all of them. Stuff like classics like Royal Rumble 92 would be on the list, and Canadian Stampede would be on the list. A lot of shows would be on the list, but I'd have to think that one through. And no matter what I picked, Madeline, I'd hate it because I'd feel like I'm jipping off another pay-per-view. I'm like, well, should I really pick this one? Because this one might technically be better. I'd never be able to decide. You're keeping me up all night thinking about this now. Thanks a lot, Madeline. I'll go ahead and block you too, along with Vontae. You're both banned. Least favorite pay-per-view of all time. That might be a little bit easier. Least favorite. The October 95 In Your House sucked. Everything in 95 sucked. King of the Ring 95 sucked. WrestleMania 11 sucked. So all those pay-per-views. And SummerSlam 95 wasn't great either, but not the worst of all time. So I'd probably put 2 or 3 pay-per-views from 95 on the list. We'll throw that December to dismember bullshit. We've had a lot of shitty ones in recent years that can easily take the cake, but I'm trying to think of, from back in the day. Back in the day, pay-per-views that just didn't do it for me. I don't remember liking SummerSlam 93 very much, or Survivor Series for that matter. Yeah, a couple pay-per-views in 93 weren't very good. 98 probably had some shitty ones too. Hell, the pay-per-view leading up to WrestleMania in 98, No Way Out, was kind of shit because the whole thing was built around the Big 8 man headed up by Shawn and Steve. And Michaels got injured in the casket match, and he wasn't there, and Savio Vega replaced him. So it was still like an entertaining match, and Austin stunned China, and it was memorable and all that, but on paper, it's pretty shitty pay-per-view, especially going into WrestleMania. Best Clash of Champions 1 and worst Battleground. Yeah, Battleground 1 year wasn't that bad. I need to go back and watch some of the clashes. I got to do a little bit of territory research because Dre, if you're still here, one of the live streams I'm doing is for him, and he wants us to talk about a lot of the territory days. So I kind of want to go back and try to remember and kind of jot down some of my favorite matches and any specific memories I have of the only other territories I was able to actually watch as a kid was NWA and AWA. I got a little bit of AWA when I was in Detroit, and I got some NWA when I moved down to the Carolinas. All the other shit that I got came years later as I became a tape trader and started, watching, Mid-South and watching Florida and getting a lot of footage that I hadn't seen before. So we'll have fun when we talk about that. It's going to be an old school stream, but we'll have a lot to talk about. See, Nick, Backlash 2018, I don't remember it. I don't know. That's why I can't, I know that in the last probably 5 or so years, we've had some real bad ones, but I don't remember any specifics. What the hell happened at Backlash 2018? That would have been WrestleMania 34. Who the fuck was a champ? Brock and Orton or something? Don't even know. What was the main event? Oh, WrestleMania 28, best pay-per-view. I think I do have WrestleMania 28 on my top 10. But I don't have it on my top 5, I don't think. That was a good one. 24 was good, too. Favorite female wrestler of all time, currently Madeline, is Trish. But I will one day, I fully expect to be a Charlotte guy. I know a lot of people hate that. I won't say that yet because everybody's pissed, but I don't know, 5 more years when maybe some of the hate on her wears off, I'll feel more confident in saying that. But yeah, right now, Trish. I always had so much respect for Trish because she came in as a model. She came in as somebody like a Tori Wilson or someone like that was just, TNA. It's all they brought her in for, it. And turned herself into a damn good wrestler where I was always so impressed with her, loved her matches, and was almost like, I guess I was almost like proud of her in a way because, she was a muscle and fitness model and she just came in just to be, a pair of chesticles on the show. That's all they were using her for. And she got in the ring, started wrestling a little bit, proceeded to get better and better and better. By the time she retired, she was seasoned, man. And she came back last year and had a killer match against Charlotte. So I'm still putting Trish number 1 because she just had, I guess, more of like a long run and a little bit more staying power. Fabulous Moolah was a piece of shit, and she was only as good as she was because of the power and the influence she had over others. She almost kind of created her own way. Where Trish, I really, truly believe, did it out of true hard work and true desire to get better and show, the agents and the management and stuff that you're good. And she became a multi-time world champion, and she was doing great things in there. And she was a pioneer in a lot of ways. So I'm still voting Trish all the way. I think Trish was amazing back in the day. I was sad to see her go. But one day it's going to be hard to discredit, how good Charlotte is, because she's just super just athletic and strong. And I wouldn't be surprised when you got Tessa over there in Impact holding a men's title. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Charlotte wins the Intercontinental title or something one day. I just have that feeling. Oh, yeah, Charlotte, I should ban myself. I'm going to block myself from my own damn chat. All you know is Backlash 2018 is that Dean is on the poster. Oh, wow. See, Ray, I don't even remember that. So the main event was Roman and Joe? I guess I remember that. And people were walking out during the match? Huh. How about that? Yeah, China, not my favorite female wrestler of all time, though. China, I think, it definitely is a pioneer, and she was doing things. She was winning men's titles before anybody, and there was a time where she was good, but again, her run was short. But I was impressed with her. Even when I look back at her now and I watch some of the things that she did in the Attitude Era, she was good. She could throw those dudes around. She would throw those forearms and those punches. And, she was like believable, like from an ass-kicking perspective. So she did a lot of great things. But when it came down to like just actual women's wrestling, she's nothing compared to Trish in my book. Trish is awesome. Take your money and ban you. You sound like my ex. Hysterical. Well, we'll hang out here for about 5 more minutes, then I'll roll out of here. Before we leave, you guys can do me a favor and keep smashing those thumbs up buttons for me. I would appreciate it. Hang out here for a few more minutes, and then you're only going to have to wait 48 hours, and you got me again. In 2 days, I'll be up here about an hour after NXT and AEW goes off the air. We'll do a live stream. We'll hang out, talk about the shows. Hopefully, they'll be good, and hopefully, they'll give us a ton of material to get into and discuss. Yeah, the China and Jericho matches I didn't like. China and Jarrett was okay. I was there for one of them. I was at Unforgiven 99, and I think they worked there. And that set up a rematch. The Good Housekeeping match the next month, and Jarrett bounced, right? Pretty sure China and Jarrett happened. I reviewed Unforgiven. Not only was I at Unforgiven 99, I reviewed it last year. I still don't remember if that match took place or not, but I'm pretty sure it did. Yeah, Asuka could be up there too. Charlotte's just going to be really hard to vote against, just because of the family name and how good she was and all that. If you put all your hate for Charlotte aside and you kind of look at the story there, it's pretty incredible that she was able to do that, especially when she really didn't have that much of a desire to get into wrestling. But after Reed passed away, decided that she wanted to live her brother's dream for her as her own little personal tribute to him. And not only did she do that and succeed, she's good. It's not like all these people that think, just giving everything because of her fucking name. No, there's plenty of second generation stars that aren't handed everything. If you're not good, you're just not good. So, I mean, hell, look at Tamina. We should talk about Tamina, by the way, because it looks like they're changing her character up. She's becoming broken Tamina. That might be interesting. But it doesn't automatically mean you're just handed a push just because you're a second generation star. It helps, but you can't suck. And if you do suck, you got to go. So, Charlotte, I think we could have done a lot worse, if there's going to be a new cornerstone and centerpiece of the women's division. She's got the name, she's carrying on the legacy. And much like John Cena, I fucking promise you, all these angry, self-centered, zero attention span fans that are so focused in the moment and who they hate for the moment will soften on her. And years from now, when she retires or goes in the Hall of Fame or starts working a Cena schedule, they will start treating her the exact same way. I guarantee it. It's an exact science, consistent as gravity. That's what they'll do. I did hear about the Netflix biopic starring Chris Hemsworth, and the only reason I have any idea who that guy is because I had to look him up. He's the Thor guy, right? And I never watched any of those movies, don't know anything about Thor, superheroes or anything, but he doesn't look a ton like him, though, so I don't know. It should be interesting. And Hulk's going to be the producer. Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of honesty there in that story. I've been ready for a Vince one. Who would play Vince? Who the fuck would play Vince McMahon? Who could do that? We talked about that before, and there was one actor that was suggested that I actually thought was pretty good, and that was Bradley Cooper. I think might do all right as Vince, especially like a young Vince. Doesn't look a lot like him, but he might be able to pull it off. I could definitely see him in a suit with the shoulder pads, excuse me. My thoughts on WrestleMania 2, it was okay. What I remember of it was reading about it in the newspaper the next day with Hogan beating the shit out of Bundy. But looking back, I think the three cities, they bit off a bit more they could chew. They were spread way too thin. They were really hurting for announcers because on some of those shows, they had Vince and some girl, and they had Elvira on there, and they didn't have a whole lot of structure there, but it came off okay. I mean, the Andrade Battle Royal with all the Chicago Bears was very memorable. I remember the Bulldogs winning the titles. That was great. And the cage match and Hogan bloodying up Bundy, those are all etched in my brain, and I have fond memories of that. But overall, I think WrestleMania 2 was one of the weaker ones, along with 11 and maybe a few others. De Niro as Vince. He'd have to play old Vince, though. He's a little bit too old to pull off Vince now, I think. but maybe. Oh, hey, buddy. You got a stretching cat. I want you guys to all congratulate Tito. He has lost 2 pounds. He is a big fat bastard, and I've been really worried about his weight. So I've been really putting him on a diet hard the past few weeks, and I weighed him today. He's dropped 2. He went down from 19 pounds to 17 pounds. And my other cat's like 11, so he really outweighs him a lot. So losing weight up in this house. I'm going to put them on DDP kitty yoga and get him into shape. You have to very carefully audition for that power walk. If you can't do it, you can't star as Vince. That's extremely important. You also have to have that voice. That's the one thing about De Niro, as good as an actor as he is, I don't know if he's got the voice, the over-the-top voice, especially now, especially modern-day De Niro. Maybe that's something he could have pulled off 25 years ago, but I don't know. John Cena, president of the U.S. I might take Brock as president. Who plays Trump in a movie? You know when you can go to those like during Halloween time and go to those big pumpkin patches and they have those big giant overgrown pumpkins? Just get one of those, set it out in the street in like 150-degree weather or 100-degree weather for like 3.5 weeks, and whatever it rots into, that will play the role of Trump. Best heel and face of all time, Madeline. That'll be my final question. I'll get out of here. Best heel and best face. Shit. Best heel, Flair. No, best heel, Jake. Best face, Tito Santana or Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. They never turned. Christian Bale, maybe. That's a good one, too. You know, I haven't seen very many Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movies, to be honest. As proud as I am of The Rock and how I sing his praises and suck his dick all the time on this podcast, I've seen very few of his movies. Never saw Tooth Fairy and any other shit he did. So I don't know if I really have a favorite Rock movie because I haven't really seen any of them at all, really. I never even saw like Walking Tall. Even the first ones he did, I never saw the Scorpion Mummy and all that shit. Never saw anything. Like, I suck at watching movies. I just don't give a shit. So I know he's been in some decent ones, but you know. Vince's walk became a thing. I could probably pinpoint it for you, Brian. I don't remember Vince doing that walk until, I want to say it was probably 99. Might have been a little bit 98, but he was still not, he wasn't doing that, the big thing. This was later. Did he have it by the time we got to the buyout? It got more animated as the years went by. Like it wasn't as pronounced as it was. He might have that a little bit, but then he would really, overdo it. Yeah, The Rock's a good dude. I mean, we all have to support Rocky because he's one of us. He came from our, world and not only made it to, tested the waters of movies, but became like the biggest movie star in the country. And there's people that actually like, even people that don't like wrestling or watch wrestling or knew anything about The Rock, there's people that support the idea of The Rock being president. Think about how he made it. He came from here. He came from wrestling. And that's just so odd. If you would have told me in fucking 96 when he debuted with that fucking chia pet on his head and that ugly ass blue suit, that this guy would be like one of the biggest stars, and the most successful people to ever do anything. Think of the money he makes. What does he pull in for a movie? He's got just so much money and so many. He's really well liked. He doesn't do stupid shit. He doesn't get in trouble. He's not doing shit like Tiger Woods would do. He's not grabbing pussies. He's not doing anything like that. He's just a good, respectful dude, that just works his ass off. He never stops working. He's go, go, go. He's either working out or working on a movie. He doesn't even have time to fuck up. He wouldn't be able to because he literally is 24/7 work all the time. And he's pushing 50 and he's still doing that. So I have the utmost respect for The Rock. And no, I haven't seen any Batista movies either. Never saw the Galaxy Guardians and shit. Never saw any of that. That's just not my cup of tea. I don't watch any of that stuff. I'm probably missing out. I fully admit that. But Oh, yeah, I do remember my reaction to Vince tearing his quads. I don't know if I called him that night or I talked to him the next day or something. I remember talking to my buddy Daniel, and I said, I felt like that was it. I'm like, WWE is just dying at this point. Like, I was already kind of frustrated with the product a little bit by then at that point. And then when they had the shitty finish, when they had the tie finish with Batista and Cena, and then Vince came in and fell down, I felt like it was the worst possible thing that could have happened on pay-per-view. Where now we kind of look back on it and smirk a little bit and think it's a little bit funny, but overall, to me, it was disastrous, absolutely disastrous for that to happen. And I'll never forget it. I remember bitching about it the next day, being like, can you believe these guys? They need to get their act together, man. What a joke. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here now. I did not expect to stream for 2 hours. I thought this would be an hour and a half. So let's go ahead and get out of here now. Don't forget to come back and join me on Wednesday night for our AEW and NXT review. Last week I had a pretty low audience, so I can use all the help I can get. So if you guys are around, please join me. That'll be fun on Wednesday. And we'll be going up the same time that this review did, 8 p.m. here on the West Coast, 11 p.m. on the East Coast. And we'll talk, hang out, and we'll chat Dynamite and NXT. You guys have a great rest of your night, and I'll catch you on Wednesday. Be good. Peace.